So the dust has settled and the first round of the NBA playoffs are only a few days away. There are some very intriguing matchups on the horizon and some high-stakes early matchups that could change the landscape of the road to the finals. I've touched on one team, and that being the Dallas Mavericks, who look to be spoilers as they approach the playoffs, but the team that will be staring them down across the court is my topic of the day, and that is the Los Angeles Clippers. Many years ago, a team name synonymous with losing and underachieving, the Clippers have fought hard to become relevant in the last couple decades, but there's still a stigma of them being and remaining on that list of teams that are on the outside looking in at all the championship franchises the NBA has produced. The question now is, will this be their final chance as currently constructed to win the big one and force their way up from being the little brother to the LA Lakers? I'll give my thoughts on that and what this first round could mean for them going forward. But first, if you enjoy NBA breakdowns and analysis, please hit the like button like the GOAT used to hit buzzer beaters. Also, if you enjoy podcasts, and we all do, please check out our other channel, the GOATcast Podcast, with myself and Big Nige as we discuss NBA topics past, present, and even future. Thank you all, and back to the content. Imagine living in a bubble for the last 10 to 15 years and finally emerging from the bubble in 2024. If I told you that the current Los Angeles Clippers consisted of Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook, your mind would likely explode. You would probably be asking with confidence how many championships have they won and how is this even fair for the league? But then you get the detailed history of the Clippers since 2020 and reality sets in. This Clippers experiment is closing in on being a huge bust, sadly. We still have this season to right that ship, but in a fierce Western Conference, it is going to be extremely tough and take a concerted effort for the four aforementioned future Hall of Famers to get it done. We won't give a history lesson of the Kawhi PG-13 Clippers, because if you've been watching the NBA, you know what it has been. Injury-riddled season after injury-riddled season. Barkley and crew famously clowned Anthony Davis and gave him the nickname Street Clothes, but the Laker big man has played more regular season games and playoff games than Kawhi or George. Many believe the two joined forces, especially after Kawhi's incredible Toronto Raptor championship run and George being a big asset to the Thunder, that this was the beginning of something special. The beginning of a new era in the West as the Golden State Warriors were left Durantless and the Lakers were busy trying to build a playoff squad. Unfortunately, both teams have raised Larry O'Brien since the two wings joined the Clippers, and the Clippers have again been the butt of NBA jokes, with playoff P being a thing and the missing posters being taped up for Kawhi whenever playoff time rolls around. They kicked Doc Rivers to the curb, thinking that would solve their issues, and brought in Ty Lue, who many, myself included, thought could fix their issues. But here we are in their fifth season as a duo, and the burning question yet again is if they both will be healthy enough to compete. The semi-good news is both have played the most amount of games in 6 years for George and 7 years for Kawhi. While we have yet to get a full sample of the two together, this year has been our closest, and in the end, both were all-stars, and the Clippers are in the same area they were last year in the 4-5 range out west, but have won 7 more games than the previous year. They added Russell Westbrook last season and James Harden this season, both nearing the end of their storied careers, but both still very capable of contributing to winning basketball. This all-in approach seems like the last hurrah for the Kawhi PG-13 era Clippers, and I believe if Steve Ballmer is being honest to himself and his fans, it should be. With Paul having a player option this offseason and James Harden not locked into anything for the 2024-2025 season, and Westbrook having a very small and movable veteran minimum contract, they could easily disband after the results of this season, and Kawhi would likely find himself surrounded by a new crop of talent that he may have to adjust his game to. Unless the Clippers find themselves in the NBA Finals this season, and even if they do and don't win, the Kawhi George era of LA would be an utter failure. I'm not one of those who overrated the pairing and thought once they combined it was championship or bust, but with two of the very best at the wing position playing alongside each other, they have not had one memorable playoff run since combining. I mean, maybe the bubble run, but that's only memorable for the emergence of playoff P and the laughable 3-1 lead collapse to the Denver Nuggets. I mean, their conference finals appearance in 2021 could be considered memorable, but no, Kawhi and George gave his best efforts, but to no avail. The crazy thing is both guys were still fairly NBA young when they joined up in their late 20s. We've seen Paul George go MIA in the playoffs and be a problem, so we wonder which side of him will show up. Kawhi Leonard is almost always a problem during the playoffs. That is unquestionable. The problem is, can he stay on the court? Now with them both coupled with Westbrook and Harden, both guys that have not had the best playoff runs, the question comes into play whether this tandem of great players has what it takes to put it all together to grab the franchise's first chip. So with that, let me answer, do they have enough? The Clippers hovered around the 3 and 4 seed for most of the post-All-Star break. They've seen likely opponents come and go from the New Orleans Pelicans to Phoenix Suns to now the Dallas Mavericks, a much improved Dallas team. A Dallas team that has fixed some personnel issues and now have an assortment of players that complement Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, and have been lethal in the last month and some change. The Clippers arrive at this playoff time seemingly intact, with everyone able to go at either 100% or at least close to it. Throughout this 2024 season, the Clippers and Mavs met 3 times and Los Angeles won the series 2-1. The problem is, these games all came before the Mavs' big trade deadline moves, which brought in Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington. Also, for a team that has 2 of the most heralded wing defenders, Luka has cooked them to average 34 points on the duo this season. I'll have to say it, if you're a Clippers fan, this is probably not the most favorable matchup to start off the playoff journey. Dallas can put points up in high doses, and as mentioned, the Mavs team they played earlier was different than this one. Zubac will have his hands full dealing with Gafford and possibly Lively on the boards and on the defensive end. With James Harden being a huge defensive liability, they have to figure out how to mask his weaknesses, while Kawhi, PG-13, Terrence Mann, and Russ will have their hands full trying to slow down Luka and Kyrie, with PJ Washington and Tim Hardaway Jr. looming. However, the Clippers do have a PJ of their own in PJ Tucker, and while the veteran hasn't played much in Ty Lue's rotation, his toughness and experience will probably be called on for this postseason, still capable of playing tough interior defense against the best of them. On the flip side though, while Dallas has improved defensively, they don't have the defenders to stop 2 of the best wings of this current era. They will no doubt have issues with the locomotive that is Russell Westbrook. Plus, the crazy thing is that James Harden being the scorer is not necessary, but will be a cherry on top for this Clipper team as currently constructed, since you have guys like Norman Powell and Terrence Mann that can put the ball in the basket at fairly high clips when Harden is dishing from the point. The major X factor, and I brought up this point in my last video, cheap plug, but check it out on Playoff Luka, is that Clippers have to deal with Playoff Luka. Luka's been on an absolute tear throughout this season and cooking nearly every team in the association. Likely to be overlooked, or to some people's opinion, snubbed for the MVP. I believe we are in store for something special like we saw last year with Nikola Jokic and him showing how wrong the voters were in the 2023 MVP. Sometimes there are players that just transcend and go to that next level, and all the planning and talent in the world can't deny them. Will this be the case? I'm not sure, but if you want to hear my prediction for the series and the others, check out our other channel, the GOATcast Podcast, that will be linked in the description. But before I give my prediction, I will say this will likely be the series I look forward to the most. I think both teams match up pretty well and have different strengths to go along with their weaknesses. As good defensively as George and Kawhi once were, they're not that anymore. So expect some high-scoring games in this series, and I believe we will see more than a few close ones that could end up going either way. Let's just say my prediction is that this will definitely not be a sweep for either side. But what do you all think? Is this the last chance for the Clippers, and will a failed playoff run force Steve Ballmer's hand to make some big changes? Let me know what you think in the comments section. Also, if you enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the view, and we'll be back soon with more content. Thank you.